Welcome to the next video in my series about the Dark Eye core rules, and we are slowly nearing the end. There are only 3 chapters left, plus the appendix, and the next 3 chapters will not be covered in too much detail. Sometimes it just makes no sense. Sometimes they're very short, and in this case, in this chapter 12, detailed rules, there are a lot of different rules for different specific situations, and most of the time I'm just going to tell you there is a rule for this situation, but I'm not going to explain it. Some I'm going to explain in a bit of more detail, but often I will just skip through. So, and the first rule is about your social status. And there are 5 levels. And the normal one is level 2. Then you are a free member of your society. And if you take a disadvantage at character creation, you become unfree, and you are like a slave, and you are owned by someone basically. And the top 3 classes are different level of nobility. There is lower nobility, nobility, and higher nobility, and I have no clue if that is a good translation for this in English, but I think you get the idea. So, and you become a noble by taking an advantage during character creation, and this advantage has 3 levels. So, and there are not many hard rules about this. In most cases, you simply have to decide if being noble or unfree or free has impact on the current situation, if people you're dealing with are influenced. Of course, when you're noble, you have certain rights within the society depending on where you are, and when you're unfree, you don't have certain rights, and what applies and is important in the situation has to be decided by the game master from the situation to situation. For example, being noble could give you an advantage when dealing with people, so tests on social talents could get a positive bonus, but in some situations you may be dealing with people who don't like noble people, and that may be an disadvantage or something like that. The next section is about regeneration. How do I get hit points back? How do I get astral energy back and karma energy? And it basically, the natural way is to rest for 6 hours, and then you would get 1d6 back on these values, and you roll a d6 for every value separated if you have more than one where you need to regenerate. And depending on the situation, you might get a bonus or a negative modifier on the regeneration roll. A negative modifier would never cause you to lose something. So if you get -2 and you roll the 1, you don't get -1, you simply get null for the regeneration. And yeah, that's about it. There's also, you can get an additional bonus regenerating hit points when you're treated, when your wounds are treated or something like that. It would simply give you an additional bonus on your roll. That's what is explained here. And then there's a longer section with different paragraphs about different sources of damage. For example, when you fall in, how much damage do I take from falling? How can I avoid the damage? Fire and acid damage. What damage do you take? What happens when I'm on fire? How can I put out the fire? How do poisons work? How can I resist poisons? What effect do they have? Then there are examples for poisons, how they work, and then it's about diseases. How do I get sick? How can I resist diseases? Their example for diseases, what effect they have on the body. And then it's about herbs, healing herbs, how you can use them to treat diseases, how to treat wounds. Where do I get them? There are examples for specific herbs with the effect they have and stuff like that. Then it's about heat and cold, what happens when I'm in heat or in a cold environment? Do I take it from it? Do I take damage from it? What else are the results of extreme heat or extreme cold on my body? Then there is a short paragraph about limited sight, about how much you can carry, how much you can lift, strategic movement, how far can I get within a day when I'm walking, when I'm riding, when I'm on a ship, when I'm in a cart. Then there are rules for a chase. How can I know if someone gets away or someone is caught? Basically, you make a roll, and then you know if someone is fast enough to get away, or if someone is caught. Then there are rules for jumping high and jumping far, and then it's about structural damage to inanimate object. They basically have hit points too, and you simply bring them down to 0 to break something. And then the last section here is about experience. How do I spend my experience points, my adventure points? What can I do with them? And basically you can modify nearly all of your values. This is the list of the values you can advance by spending experience points, and it starts with the attribute values, then it's talents, combat techniques, your hit points, your astral energy, your karma energy. You can buy new advantages, you can get rid of disadvantages, you can learn new special abilities, new spell tricks, new blessings, new spells and rituals, and new liturgies and ceremonies. And to increase your values in these areas, you use a table that tells you what it costs to buy a new point. And this is exactly the same table you use during character creation. It is rather simple. For most values, only the first 4 columns are important. The last column is only for attributes, so you can ignore this for now. The first columns A, B, C, and D have a base cost of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this means up to 12. Every point you buy costs you 1, 2, 3, or 4. And above 12, you simply have to pay the base cost, and then the base cost again additionally, and it sums up more, 2 times the base cost, 3 times the base cost, 4 times the base cost. So 1 for 1 to 12 in the first column, and then it costs 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get the next higher skill value. And for the column B, it's 2 from 1 to 12, and then it costs 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. That's how the first 4 columns work. What column you have to use is given with a talent and with a skill and with a spell, ritual, liturgy, ceremony. The attributes use the last column, and it simply has a cost of 15 up to 14. So every point until 14 costs you 15 points, and for the 15th point it is the cost 30, and then the cost is 45, and then is 60, and then is 75, and then is 90, and so on and so on. The hit points, the astral energy, and the karma energy use column D, and you only pay for the additional points. So you start to pay for the first point, and you look what does 1 point cost, and then 2, 3, 4. So you will be able to buy up to 12 additional points at the cost of 4 experience points, and then the 15th and the 13th point costs 8, and then the next 12, and so on. And if you lose permanent points, for example on your astral energy, most likely because you're creating an artifact or something. You can buy back these points at 2 experience points per point. And that is basically the rules for leveling up, or how you spend your experience points. There are limits to your values, how high you can raise them, and they are described here in detail. And here is a short table that gives you the maximum values you can have when you advance your values. For the hit points, the maximum additional points you can buy is equal to your constitution. For astral energy and karma energy, the maximum you can buy is your lead talent of your tradition. And for skill values, for talents, the maximum is the highest attribute you roll on +2. For combat techniques, it's the lead talent of the combat technique +2. Every combat technique is either agility or strength as the base, as a lead attribute. For ranged weapons, it is dexterity, and sometimes you can choose if you use agility or strength, and you basically your maximum value in the combat technique is the lead attribute +2. And for liturgies, ceremonies, spells and rituals, the maximum is 14 unless you have a specialization in the spell class or in the aspect of the god. And that's basically how you increase your values, how you buy higher values with experience points, and what the maximum level is you can raise these values to. And the rest of this section explains in words how you level up stuff and gives you examples, and it's basically what I just told you. Then there is a short section about how you learn new skills. Usually you have to somehow justify where you did learn the skill from. For example, you could learn something from a book, or you have to go to someone who teaches you. You have to find someone, especially when it's a very rare and special skill. You might have to find someone special who knows how that works and who can teach you. But that's basically up to you. In my group, we don't do this at all. We just choose new skills and level it up, and it just can't be too crazy. You can't learn forgotten wisdom or something, but everything else is basically okay. So that's the detailed rules, the collection of different rules for different situations. I skipped through most of it and didn't really explain it. If you have a question, want to know details about certain things, then feel free to ask, comment. I can explain it. Maybe I'm making a video on its own about some topic if you want to know more details about it. But for now, that's it. And so, bye.